Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, good morning. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Ness. Welcome to my October reading vlog. Spooky, 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 spooky. It is spooky because I don't know what's happening with my reading this month. I had a TBR planned out. It's all gone to pot. Totally. Oh God, don't even start. So I'm scared for my reading. This has not started a good reading month. So these were on my TBR for this month. Let's talk about why they're no longer on my TBR before we move on to actually what I am reading. So Tender is the Flesh, I bought that for spooky season. I've really struggled to find horror books that I really want to read, and most of the, actually all three of these I got from my favourite secondhand bookshop, Barter Books, but they're going straight back there. So I got them out of the horror section. Tender is the Flesh is a translated works. It's kind of the concept that animals that we eat are no longer available, so humans have started eating humans instead. That doesn't bother me. Apparently it's really gory, but I can cope with like human horror. But apparently there's a scene in this of animal abuse towards dogs. And saying everything about how I can read body horror, I can't read animal abuse. I can't get over it, so I'm gonna give this one back to Barter Books. So that was the first big loss, because this is everywhere in terms of recommendations for horror novels. So I wanted to read this to be part of the conversation, and I can't anymore. So that was the first one down. Next, this one ended up off my TBR, The Last House on Needless Street. I bought this, you'll notice, in my last vlog. I read 9 pages of this before thinking, I know what this book is about, and that never happens to me. Usually I'm terrible at like guessing crimes and things, but 9 pages in, I knew exactly what had happened. I googled, does this book have mental health problems in this? And it does. I'm going to spoil this for everyone else. This book has DID in it, dissociative identity disorder, and disappointed that nobody's really talking about this when recommending this book, because I hate it when people use mental health problems in horror books. I think using mental health as a trope in horror is overused, and it's overrepresenting mental health in horror as a tool of creating horror and bad people. I have personal experience of psychosis, not from me, from an immediate family member, and the reaction to the general public to finding out that information and dealing with that person in my life was appalling, and I purely think it's driven by stigma, which mainly comes from horror media. So I don't like it, so that was immediately also off my TBR. So at this point, we're 2 adult horror books down. So I thought, you know what? We're going to reel it in a bit. We're going to go to young adult horror, kind of. You know, this doesn't market itself as horror, but it's fantasy, but dark fantasy, young adults, small town creepy forest nightmare creatures. I gave this 5 chapters and I was not enjoying this, so I've DNF'd this. So I'm having a spooky season TBR crisis right now. My immediate plan and thought is to just read through my Evernight subscription books and hope for the best. I obviously have 3 to read. The first one was Silver Nitrate. I read that and didn't enjoy it. So I did finish Silver Nitrate last night, and I was so relieved when I finished it. I gave it a 3 stars in the end, but the stars were really for the writing and for the research that I felt like Sylvia put into this book. The characters were well fleshed out and they were well developed, but I just really wasn't that interested in them. It's not what I was hoping for, if I'm honest, but I think fans of old movies will really enjoy it, and I felt like in the end there was a lot about Mexico in the 90s in there that I did enjoy. But I think fans of Sylvia will really love Silver Nitrate, but I just don't think that author and their writing style is for me. Also, for a horror subscription, I didn't think it was that spooky. I don't know what it is about the first books I read of subscriptions, because the first book that I read of the romantasy subscription was terrible. So I'm nervous for the rest of the Evernight books, but I'm guessing this is what we're doing now. I might as well make a start with The Eyes Are the Best part, covering this up, because I know this is really gross. I've heard that this isn't a very good horror book, that the horror part of this is really poor and that it's mainly like a family drama. So again, not the spooky that I was going for, and probably a little bit let down by the Evernight subscription when I'm looking for spooky horror. But we'll see how it goes. I think as part of this, because I've really struggled to find recommendations for horror books, I'm going to tell you as I go through some things I've read in the past and would recommend and that I found genuinely spooky for this month. I have posts and I don't know what it is. I can't remember what I've ordered, but you can tell it's a record. So I thought we could open this together because we'll both be surprised. Oh, well, honestly, I actually think this is kind of embarrassing at this point. It is a record, it's Brat. And it's the same, but there's 3 more songs on it, so no. This is a Blood Records edition, so I think this was limited to 5,000 of this particular design. The inside is silver marble. This is like very much the definition of an impulse purchase, but it's pretty. I just saw this go on sale and I was doing nothing else, so I thought, why not? I'm on to page 50-ish. It's chapter 12 in this really gross iBook. Actually, so far, I wouldn't be able to tell you what genre I was reading. Maybe like a family drama, because absolutely nothing of horror has happened. At this point, I wouldn't know that this book was from the Evernight subscription. I actually cut one of the cards up to make a bookmark. Yeah, this is just family, but I'm sure that something is going to happen soon. This is a really long book. This is just under 300 pages, so really I'm only like a sixth of the way through this. It's still setting itself up really, but I am enjoying it. It is a quick read and I'm going to read some more tonight. I'm hopefully going to get to about at least page 100. Mango is getting settled for bed and she's so cute. She hates being tucked in, but I tuck her in every night. After she's fallen asleep, you've got to tuck her in, and then she'll sleep like that through the night, but she doesn't like it if you actually just like put a blanket on her while she's awake. So once I know she's fully asleep, I'm gonna get up, wrap her up, and then I'll see everyone in the morning. As this is the first vlog I've made since my autism diagnosis, I thought I would talk a little bit about that because I did mention it on Instagram and in a comment of my comeback video recently. There was a lot of support about it and there was a lot of people saying that they were undiagnosed, and there was also some assumptions made as well which were out of kindness but were quite wrong. I've always had anxiety, and when I was at school, girls didn't get autism. Only boys could get autism, so if a girl had something wrong with her, it must have just been something else. I've always had anxiety. Even when I was in nursery, I didn't want to go to nursery because the environment was just torturous. My mum, I remember, felt like she just had to keep me at home because I was not coping and I would scream and cry. When I did go to school, I was seen as the quiet one. If you look back at like all of my reports throughout the year, literally the first sentence always included that I was shy and quiet. As a teenager, the anxiety started to get worse and I found a small group of friends which helped me survive school and explore hobbies that I'd had since childhood but now had more accessibility to them. And I think as a teenager I became a little bit of a hoarder. I would say my books are not hoarding. I'd say they're more of a collection of things that I enjoy. I have a purpose from them. So I don't know. Take from my book collection what you will. Things got so much worse when I went to university and my anxiety became an actual problem, and that's when I started having counselling and therapy when I was 18, and I got diagnosed with a generalised anxiety disorder, and then shortly after, social anxiety. I tried so much medication. I was in and out of counselling for 10 years, and in that time when I entered the workplace it got so much harder. I found that the workplace environment over any other environment that you've been in up to that point is one where you have the least amount of control. And I'm assuming that's why I struggled even more when I entered the workplace, because up until then I was able to tolerate and sort of just function and focus on the things that I really enjoyed. I did a history degree because that was one of my interests, and I spent a lot of free time outside of that, because I only had 6 hours in lectures, just resting. I kept going to the doctors thinking I was chronically tired. There was nothing wrong with me, which has always been kind of like another aspect of my life, is chronic tiredness and fatigue. I ended up on long-term sick actually while I was at work. I had 4 months out of work because I just had a full-on breakdown and I just couldn't cope anymore. I was on all kinds of meds and was able to get to a better place, but the struggles that I had just never went away. Actually, in some instances they got worse. I started developing tics. Then sure enough, I ended up back in therapy. It was in December 2019 when a counsellor from the NHS decided that maybe my anxiety is a symptom of something and not a medical cause. And that was when the referral was made to my NHS Adult Autism Assessment Unit. But obviously, you know what happened next. The thing that we went through in 2020 happened, and that caused a humongous backlog in NHS autism adult assessments. And I moved house in that time, so my appointment letters were going to the wrong address, and I was finally called to say, look, you've got this appointment today. If you don't make it, you're going to be taken off our list. And I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about or where you're coming from, because actually I'd forgotten all about this. I didn't actually think that I had autism. I just went along with it because that's what the counsellor said was the next step, was making that referral. I actually thought it was going to be a waste of time and NHS resources. I didn't see myself as an autistic person. So over 4 years later, I get this phone call this summer saying that I've got this same day appointment, and I decided to go because it got me out of work. The lady that I spoke to was really nice and we had a really honest conversation over just under 4 hours. She asked me a series of questions, and I did have to get my parents to answer some questions as well about my development and the things that I enjoyed as a kid and how I interacted with people as a kid. They also didn't think that I had autism, but they went along answering the questions that I asked them. And we spoke about how I do things. She kind of was picking up on things I was doing during the assessment and how I did them. We spoke about the speech problems that I have. We spoke about my hobbies, my friends, what we do together, what I do in my spare time, the problems I've had when I've come into conflict in my life, how I manage at work. There was a whole host of things, and if you want to know more in depth about the test itself, I'm happy to answer some questions in the comments. We spoke about sometimes I go into supermarkets and I get really overwhelmed and I just start having a meltdown. Oh, and we also spoke about senses as well and some sensory problems that I have, but the entire time I was doing this assessment, I kept telling her, but this is just anxiety. I've come to understand that this is just anxiety. This is what generalized anxiety does to me. This is what social anxiety does to me. So that's the kind of the conversation we were having. She said she was going to take the report away and she would take that to a board of assessors and they would discuss it and they would give me a call back with a diagnosis. I thought that this was all really funny and a great way to get out of work for a day, and I didn't think anything of it. Honestly, I just forgot about it. Went about my week, and then I got a phone call saying that there was a unanimous agreement by the board that I was on the autism spectrum disorder and that I was at the moment high functioning, so I didn't need any further help, but they would offer me a follow-up appointment when one became available. She also told me that my symptoms might deteriorate, and I was like, symptoms of what? I don't believe you. But sure enough, the symptoms that I was having got so much worse. The symptoms that I just kept telling everyone, it's anxiety, it's anxiety. It took me 4 weeks to get my report back, and when I got the report back, I was super offended. I kind of felt like all quirky aspects of my personality had been given a medical diagnosis, and I felt really negative about that. To try and understand my diagnosis a bit more, I started telling people that knew me to see how they would react, and the messages were really mixed. People who'd known me my entire life were saying, no, you don't have autism, but people who'd known me in like the last 10 years were like, that makes a lot of sense, and honestly I thought that about you anyway. To which I was like, thanks. So a really mixed reception, but I kind of feel like those that feel like I don't have autism likely have it themselves, and that is where I got it from, given that it is hereditary. With my report, I went through that with those that know me the closest, like my husband, and kind of gave examples of when I've done things in the past which explain that part of the report. And it took me like 3 weeks to start to accept the diagnosis and see that within myself. But I really just felt like this was my personality, and yeah, it is my personality, it's just the way my mind works, and it's my normal. And I didn't understand why my normal had a medical term for it. To me, other people struggled, but I didn't struggle. But actually, when you think about how many hours I've sat in counselling for a reason, I was struggling. And I do struggle. Now that I have a diagnosis, I've actually realised how much I struggle, and how much of the things that I do every day and the way I think about things every day is likely down to this medical diagnosis. So we're getting there, but basically I went through denial, anger, grief, frustration, to come back to where I am right now, which is acceptance with caveats. I really appreciate where people come from when they say that it's not a bad thing. And I agree, there's some parts of my ability and skill which are likely caused by this, like my ability to be really analytical, which at work makes me thrive. The way that I can enjoy simple things in life from the comfort of my own home, like that's all really good, but there's a lot of things that I struggle with because of it. So to me, this is still a negative thing. I know people say it's like a wonderful thing, it's a great thing, and I'm like, no, if I could get rid of it, I would, so that I didn't have to struggle with the things I really struggle with. I know it comes from a place of love, so I don't get frustrated when people say that. And I think I will get there eventually, where I'm just like, it's a good thing. Like, I do see it as funny. I do make jokes. I do allow other people to make jokes about me as well. But there's a lot of things that I don't like about it. I don't like how children's toys overwhelm me. I don't like how when children cry it makes me feel really unwell and I can't cope with it. That in itself has a massive impact on my life and my ability to think about family planning, which at my age is really important. I also don't cope with change well, even if it's something that I really want to do. When we moved to Australia 8 or 9 years ago, I cried in the airport and had a full-on breakdown in the airport to the point where they weren't going to allow me on the plane. And that was because something about my life was changing. And even when I did get on the plane and I did get there, the plane was sensory overloaded to begin with. So when I got to Australia, I cried for weeks wanting to come home but couldn't bear getting on the plane again, and had a really awful time for the first month until I'd established a new routine. Sometimes the tics that I have can be really painful and really distressing for people around me that don't understand what I'm going through. Like, can you imagine just being in the supermarket and then some random woman's head locks up and she can't unlock her head because she's overstimulated and she's crying and just like sat on the floor? Like, it's just a lot, and it makes me feel, I don't know the word for it, but it doesn't feel good. Some people at work have also mistaken it for deliberate self-harm, which in the workplace is not good at all, when actually it's a behaviour that I don't know that I'm doing. I'm happy to make a way more in-depth video on this if anyone would find that useful. So if anyone would find that useful, just let me know. But I think I'm going to leave that there for now, because this is a reading vlog. I just wanted to touch on it a little bit. I also thought maybe I'd show you some things I've been buying at the weekend. I went to Primark and bought some new pyjamas. I bought these were £15 and I begrudgingly bought them, but they're actually really good quality. But I would say that TK Maxx has some in for £15 which were even better quality. I got these ones too. Got some basics. This was £6, but it is cropped and long sleeved. This long sleeve top was £5 and not cropped. Why is everything cropped these days? I got 2 jumpers for £13 each. One says Copenhagen. Have I ever been? No. And the other one says San Francisco. Have I ever been? No, I just needed some cheap throw-on jumpers. These vests with the built-in bras for £8 are such a bargain. I don't know why I haven't bought any of these already. The thing with the best quality that I bought was this for £10. I bought this for work. This is just like a kind of like a jumper throw-on. Looks really good with jeans. I'm going to tidy my room a little bit and then I'm going to pick up more of my book, which I'm really enjoying. I'm nearly halfway through and I have a lot to say on it. I found a use for the Illumicrate balls that came in August and I'm so happy. Yes, I did buy a huge bunch of sweets for Halloween, and yes, I did eat 3/4 of them, and this is all that's left. I don't think it's going to survive till Halloween, to be honest. I am beyond excited because me and Rebecca from Rebecca Reads, YouTuber, Instagrammer, TikTok extraordinaire, we've booked a trip to Edinburgh, and I've only been to Edinburgh once, and that was for the Eras tour, and we didn't like wander around or anything. We just went to like from the hostel to the stadium, and when I was there I was like, this place is really nice, it's an hour on the train from where I live, why am I not going to Edinburgh more? And when I found train tickets for £15 return, I was like, I need to do this. Message Rebecca. I think she realised she didn't have much choice in the matter. And we're going to Edinburgh in November, which I'm going to be vlogging for my Cosy Fantasy reading vlog. So that's like super exciting. Let me know what books I should treat myself to. I've been on a book buying ban for the majority of this year. Well, a new book buying ban. I've been getting like secondhand books by trading old ones in. So let me know what books are worth breaking my book buying ban for, because I'm so out of the loop of publishing. I don't know what's new, what's good, I'm just really focusing on my physical TBR. Speaking of physical TBR, I really feel like I need to give an update for The Eyes Are the Best Part. Ugh, I hate looking at this, I really hate this. If I had a cover to put on this, I absolutely would. I am about 45% of the way through, and I would say that now I'm starting to get the horror theme of it. Up until 40% of the way in, I would say that this is a family drama where the main character has just gone to college and she has a little sister and she's living with her mum and dad in a small confined flat, and they've had a series of misfortunes and the dad has left, and the main character shares a bed with her younger teenage sister, and they are a very close family. So when the dad leaves, that is really devastating to them, and their mum pretty much has a breakdown. That is until the mum meets George, who is an older white Republican man, and the main character's parents are Korean and they have been born and raised in America but very strongly in their Korean roots, and it seems like George romanticizes or fetishizes Asian women. So obviously the main character hates George. I hate George. I think he's gonna get what's coming to him. But the main character starts becoming obsessed with eyes, specifically George's eyes, which are blue eyes. She starts thinking about what would blue eyes taste like, and this follows on from her mother introducing her to fish eyes being like a food type from Korea, like it's totally normal. So she's done that, and now she's starting to fascinate about human blue eyes. The thing that's making it horror is not that part, it's that the main character, there's red flags for her being there's something wrong with her, like underlying is what I get the impression of. There's sort of the introduction of characters of her old friendship group and how she did things to them, how she interacts with people at college, what she thinks about. There's clearly something off about the main character, and I think that she has the potential to do something really bad. And I don't know if maybe that's the horror point of this book, is that a perceivingly normal person has like thoughts in their head which are very strange and can lead them to doing bad things. Maybe that's like the horror part of it, like kind of like real life horror. There's a demon in all of us type of thing. I don't know, but I'm actually enjoying it, and I didn't think I would. I mean, at times in the first 40% I was putting this down and then forgetting to pick it back up because I wasn't too hooked on the family aspect, but once we started to see layers of the main character, that's when I became really hooked. I am done everything that I need to do today. I'm gonna climb into bed. I'm gonna try and make a big dent in this because I'm not where I wanted to be in reading this by now. It's Monday the 21st of October and I wanted this video out a week today, and I still have so much more reading that I want to do, and I'm at work. I've been trying to think really hard about what books I've read that are horror that have actually been really scary, and there hasn't been that many. I don't know what it is around books as a medium, but I just think they are way less scary than like watching a movie. I think because movies have like, they can use other tools to build suspense and create horror. Books lack that, and when it's kind of like your own imagination, you can just, it can be telling me like to read about a zombie, and in my head it could be like a bunny rabbit. Nosferatu by Joe Hill is probably the scariest book that I've read. There's something about creepy children and stuff that I just, yeah. That is the absolute like most horror book that I've read. If I had to recommend what, Mango, she's having a moment. If I had to recommend one book for horror... Mango! Mango! Oh my god, she's like, never does this. She never plays with toys. And she's got a toy and she's like throwing them around the room. So yeah, apart from my spooky dog being spooky, what are you doing with it? Joe Hill. I think much better than Stephen King. Why are you doing this, huh? Are we playful now? Are we playful? Are you gonna take it? Why is it when I put a camera in front of you, you decide that you're done? Come on, let's play. Oh. Okay. Thank you. You make me seem like a little liar. Yeah. Oh, sweetheart. You're such a mom's girl. I am taking so much longer than I thought I would finishing The Eyes Are the Best Part. I'm in like the second half, but barely. And I am really enjoying it. It's been a while since I've read a book with an unreliable narrator. The main character, I don't think she's a very good person, but neither is like the villainous character. And I think some of the characters also have malicious intent. Or maybe, no, maybe they have good intent, but the main character, I don't know. And I think it's a good book because you just don't know what's going on. You don't know what's real and what's not. But for such a short book, less than 300 pages, this is taking so long. And when I'm putting it down, I'm really struggling to pick it back up. I'm really worried because I wanted this vlog out in a few days and actually I've not done anything. I've not achieved anything reading wise. This month is just absolutely flying over. I have so much going on in November though, like a trip to Edinburgh, gigs, a night at Durham University, pumpkin painting, so that's going to be really nice, but I just feel like I haven't accomplished much this month. And I guess that's okay, but I feel a little bit like a failure right now. I'm going to try and set myself a 48-hour goal. I want to have finished this book and I want to have done something really fun. But I am running on 5 hours of sleep because last night I just hyperfixated on something, so focused, I couldn't switch my mind off. My mind was just racing about it. And I'm not going to go into it because it's like such a nerdy thing, like the card game Magic the Gathering. I just really decided I was going to build a Dowry of Blood inspired deck online and buy all the cards for it, and I spend a fortune. But I feel like nobody's going to know even what I'm talking about. But it's nice when your like hyperfixations meet together, they like come together, join forces, and then take over your thoughts even more. I'm really struggling with focusing on reading and I don't know why, because I'm not in a reading slump, it's just that my brain is like wandering. It's just focusing on so many other tasks other than just focusing on what's in front of me and the words, because I want to read it. I'm not slumping, I just can't focus. I feel like it's got so much worse since my autism diagnosis, but I don't think it's autism that's causing it. I just think my brain is just full of noise and I don't know how to switch it off. Also, I don't know if this is just me, but my hairdresser encouraged me to add bio oil to my skincare routine. And honestly, I think it's working, you know. I put it underneath my foundation and my foundation has stayed really well. And my skin looks moisturised, but not like too moisturised, like not too oily. And it was such a cheap bottle for like how much you use. It's going to last me like half a year. But I've been using it and I think it works. And I'm not a skincare girly. I'm not even a makeup girly. I will spend the least amount of time and money on these types of products. But this one works. So yeah, just a recommendation if you have very dry skin. Try adding bio oil. Not sponsored, just when something works I like to share it. So this outfit was supposed to be like a vision. I had a vision. I've had Madonna, Like a Prayer in my head all day, but the TikTok like one where people have like slowed it down and it sounds like, I don't know, they're using it for front of class edits. It's a bit like opera, and I just had that in my head, and I knew that I had this necklace which was like gold, really gothic, and it was in the shape of a cross with red stones in it, and I was like, that I like that. So with that music in my head and with the thought of this necklace, that was what I was going for. And now I've lost the necklace, so I just look like a lumberjack on camera, when actually it's like this tight bellowy sleeves. Looks, it's given lumberjack. I know it is, I know that, but I can't find the necklace, and the cutoff is yeah. But more successful than my outfit has been the past 48 hours. So I went on a little wander to Newcastle because the weather was really nice. And unfortunately they had their Christmas decorations up. So it wasn't really given Halloween, but it's, you know, it's going to be nice for going into November. I think it's too early to have Christmas decorations out, but you know, I love the city of Newcastle. I live a half an hour walk away. It's gone through a lot of changes over the past decade, and it didn't always used to be as nice as what it is, but I'm so pleased that the council is investing in highlighting the best parts of it and tidying it up. And it's just a lovely place to have a walk around now. The Waterstones there is like the best that I've ever been in. I almost bought the spell shop when I was in there, but I'm going to Edinburgh with Rebecca in 2 weeks time, which I'm so excited about. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna let myself go on a splurge when I'm with Rebecca. So that was a really lovely little walkabout. And I also finished The Lies Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. I'm going to talk about this in a spoiler-free way, and then I'm going to talk about it in a more spoiler bit, but I will tell you when the spoiler bit comes and when to skip to. This was a solid 4-star read. I really enjoyed this. I would definitely read more books by Monica Kim in the future because I thought that the writing was really good, and I'm also really interested in like the thought process of Monica Kim. Like, how did she come up with this book? I'm sorry, but the concept of it is just, it's really good, but it's really dark as the concept. So continuing on from where we spoke about The Eyes Are the Best Part and what the main character is doing, halfway through this book takes a turn from the family drama and a slow descent into the main character's darkness. But there is hints dropped across the book that the character has kind of always been this way, and her current big problem is her mother's new boyfriend. And she really doesn't like him. He's a really awful person, fetishizes Asian women, and it's just purely awful. He, in my opinion, deserves whatever this book might throw at him. It's more psychological horror than on the page gore. I didn't find it that gory at all, but if you have a thing for eyes, you probably might find some of the descriptions of this quite horrifying. But I thought this was just light horror, really. Nothing scary, there's no jump scares or anything, but I thought if you've got the Evernight subscription, you should read it. I hope you would like it as much as I do. The only thing that stopped this being the 5 stars for me was I felt like there was a few things that weren't explained, and the side characters, there was so few of them, could have been more embellished. And I think that the characters were just in there as red herrings possibly, and I would have liked to have seen some more actual development with those characters. So that's all I'm going to say is spoiler free. Please read it if you have it. It's a very short, quick read, and I do recommend this. I thought this was great. Not so much if you are a fan of fully blown horror, like gore and scares and things. Probably not the book for you, but if you want to kind of delve your toes into something a little bit dark, then I would pick this book up. So now I'm going to talk about the spoiler, what I thought about this in depth, and I would love that if you've read the book, if you could engage with me about some of my thoughts in the comments. I've done a lot of looking on Reddit and things for theories about this book, and I can't find any. So this is the timestamp to go to if you want to skip this. If you do plan on reading this, there's a massive spoilers in here and it will ruin your perception of reading the book, so please skip to this time. The ending, I think we need to talk about the ending. So what is expected happens. The main character tries to eat the eyeballs of George. That's the big build-up, and we know that's going to happen. But the main character then ends up in the hospital with George. People told me there was a plot twist to this book, and I was waiting for the plot twist. And it was only after I finished the book I was wondering, do people mean like the brain tumour? So she wakes up in the hospital and she's told that she has a brain tumour. And I guess the plot twist to that is supposed to be, she has a brain tumour and that's what's making her do all these things, or that's why she's been hallucinating, or that's why she's been like fixated on eyeballs or something. I didn't take it that literally. The way that I took this was that this was another red herring where the author was like, haha, she had a brain tumour. But then it's kind of like, oh nope, quick swerve from that. The main character still has these really, really dark thoughts, and it's not down to that at all. It's because she's just, that's who she is. It's not like, she had a brain tumour and then everything is roses and the story ends. She has a brain tumour, but then she quickly starts to become, she glances over that very quickly to carrying on with her mission, which was she wants to eat George's eyes, and then she wants to set off on revenge to all of the people that wronged her and set up her friend, who in the end was probably just a really nice guy. And usually in a horror book where it's like, and this happened and that's explained away, nothing more bad happens, but it's just kind of like this blip red herring and then back down, and she's still focused on what she needs to do and she has no bad feelings about that whatsoever. So for that reason I really liked it. I thought that was kind of humorous, but I don't know if anyone else took it that way, but I took from that some humour because it felt like the author was kind of like playing on the horror trope around that type of thing. That's the bit where I'm really looking forward to seeing if other people agree or disagree with me on, so that's what I would like to discuss in the comments if possible. I really, really liked the main character's approach. She was a bad person who did bad things, and some of those things were not deserved. Like, she did mutilate people, she did kill people, and there was no rationale for her doing that. She was just driven by this desire and hunger. They can't be explained away. What she did to George, I think he fully deserved that though, and I was rooting for her in that moment. In the other moments where she did bad things, I was like, no, stop. But in this moment, I was like, yes, please go. Because he was such an awful character. And I think he was written so well. Like, I had an image in my head of what I thought he looked like. And it's someone from a movie, and I just can't I just can't place it. It's doing my head in. But he was the stereotypical older white man who, vile in the way that he treats and looks at Asian women. I could just picture him. I could picture the car he drove and everything. Like, it was just the perfect caricature of that type of person. I feel like there were some aspects of her personality that were just like not explained. The way that she felt towards Alexis, I felt at times that had romantic inclinations, and I don't really understand why her character was created. I get why Jeffrey was created, because he was needed to be the scapegoat at the very end. And he was a nice guy, and she did push him away, and I think that gave the character some personality. Alexis, I didn't really understand. Why was she drawn to Alexis? Was that romantic attraction? Was that sexual attraction? That's what I didn't get. Or was the purpose that she felt actually physical and romantic attraction towards a person, but was still willing to cut them off because of their dark inclinations? Is that the point? I don't know. This is one of those very few books where I feel like I could have had this expanded on. I would quite happily have a sequel. I mean, this was a fantastic standalone. I thought that it touched on so many important topics around immigration and forced migration and first and second and third generations and their identity and the cycle of poverty enforced by people who migrate to a different country because of the barriers that they face. I feel like I could have more. I could see more of this. I could do it. I very rarely say that. Usually I'm like, I read a standalone and I'm like, yeah, I can. That's a very nicely wrapped up story. I would go into more of this. So that's how I felt about this book. Solid 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Great read. As much as I really want to read Mistress of Lies, I'm actually going to pick up another Evernight book because it's keeping on theme. I don't know whether to pick up Murder Road though, or to pick up The Invocations. This is one of my favourite special editions of all time. I think this is absolutely gorgeous. But I'm kind of feeling a bit of like a slasher book, and the artwork for this kind of gives me that. Really, really love the hardback of this book. I think this is so cleverly done, and it reminds me of like 80s summer camp horrors, but this is more like small town. What I will say is though, I've never really liked a small town horror. We'll give this one a go. We'll give it a go. Simone St. James, we will try you, and we will save the invocations for another spooky season. Oh, I love this. Do I really want to wait another year to read this though? Oh, I think I'm going to. So next book is Murder Road, and I want to make a really big dent in this today. It's the last day of this vlog, and I'm genuinely so surprised at how quick this month has gone over. We were going to do some things for Halloween, so it would be really nice because it's Mango's first Halloween. We were going to dress her up, but putting her in clothes is kind of traumatic for her. I think it's because she thinks about the things that she was wearing when she was racing. So it didn't go to plan, and then there was lots of fireworks going off, and it just really scared her, and I just went into man mode. And everything was about keeping her safe and keeping her comfortable and not scared. So yesterday was a bit of a write-off. Oh my god, I can't believe it's the 1st of November, and I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to talk a little bit about Murder Road, and then I'm going to start a new fresh file for my November reading vlog, which I'm super excited by. I've never been more excited for a reading vlog because I genuinely think the reading this month is going to be super good, and this video could be so long because I've got so many things planned, unlike this one where I feel like this is just me rambling at a camera about what I'm reading, which hasn't been the best. And if you've watched this whole thing, poor you is all I can say. I hope I like helped you go to sleep or something, because this must have been a boring watch. I did make a really good dent in Murder Road, and I have some thoughts about this book. It's okay. I think I'm about 60% of the way in, and I might finish this today before I go out with Rebecca and start my November reading. There's 120 pages left, so I think I could probably sit and bash this out in a few hours. What I would say is it's fine. It's fine. It's not the slasher that I was looking for, but really I should have thought more about the style that Fairyloot did for this book. It's not given spooky, is it? It's given kind of like happy, cartoony. When I looked at the cover of the book for its normal edition, I was like, if I'd picked that book up, I would have expected something really dark, and this isn't. It's not like that. It's more suits this. So in this novel we are following newlyweds April and I forgot his name. This is seriously how little invested I am. I think he's called Ethan. He's called Eddie. He's like one of the main characters. April and Eddie are on their honeymoon, and they're driving in the middle of the night, and they are lost, and they think they're heading in the direction of their resort, but they are, you know, it's the 90s, it's 95, there's no sat navs, they're using a map, and they're driving in the middle of nowhere, and they see a girl at the side of the road, and they pick her up. She gets in the car, and they realize that she has been stabbed, and their car is being followed, and they assume that the people in the car behind them are chasing after them to get this girl. She dies in the hospital in Cold Lake Falls, which is a small town not quite on the way to their honeymoon destination, and they are arrested and they become murder suspects. It's typical like small town police department and the detective from the outside who is trying to pin the murder on these people because they have nothing else to go on, and the main characters are trying to find out what is truly happening themselves, and this inkling that this is a serial killer. It's basically like a light paranormal crime mystery spooky book. I wouldn't say that this was necessarily a really good representation of what I was looking for in horror, and I think it just goes back to how I feel about the Evernight books in general, that they are a specific genre, maybe with a light touch of horror and a light little spook. But obviously I can't speak for the rest of the 40% of this book, but this is fine. This is sitting at a 3 stars. I think the writing isn't as good as The Eyes Are the Best Part. I've actually really struggled getting into this book because of the writing, and there's some things in here that make me like roll my eyes a little bit. You kind of have to abandon what you would do in this book, because honestly the main characters, sometimes I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I would just not make that decision. I don't think anybody in their right mind would make that decision. So you've kind of got to like get rid of all sense of common sense and just read it. So I don't know. I think if I don't read this by the time Rebecca picks me up, I'm just going to abandon it and start on something else on a November read and maybe revisit this, but I'm really going to try and hope to finish this. I'll put in the comments if I ever do finish this, or you can check my Goodreads page. And actually I thought of one more book which came from Illumicrate but not in the Evernight subscription because I don't think it was out at the time. I want to talk to you about how much I really liked it and how I thought it was a really good example of light horror. When I got the Book Eaters in Illumicrate, I wasn't overly enamoured by it. I was like, it looks like a quick read. I wasn't too interested in the edition, but I thought I would try and read it because I knew that this book was partially set in Newcastle. So that's why I picked this up also last October when I read Silver Nitrate. And I also read Gallant at the time, which I really didn't like. And actually, this was the star read for me last October. I really loved this. This is one of the best picks that I've read from Illumicrate and Fairy Loot. And I feel like this is kind of one of those under the radar good books that nobody's really talking about. And when you sit and read it, you're like, where's this going? Where's this going? Is this going to pick up? Is this going to pick up? But then you finish it and you're like, actually, this book is mind-blowingly good, at least in my opinion. I've actually kept this because I would love to read this, and usually when I read books I get rid of them straight away. I don't like to keep books I've read just for the sake of keeping them, but this was one that I would love to reread, and I'm actually really fond of this edition now. I also don't like books where the main character has a child because that's just not something that I'm interested in. And in this one, the main character, I think she's called Devon, her and her son are living in Newcastle and they are on the run and hiding. Devon is not a human, she is a book eater, so she is like a human appearing creature that eats books for subsistence. Like the whole concept of this is just wild. Her son though is a perversion of her kind is what it says, and her son is a mind eater, so her son doesn't consume books for subsistence. Well, he can, but his substance that he's looking for is people's minds, and obviously eating other people's minds, it's going to kill them. It's not a good thing. So she can't bear to have her son taken away from her or have anything happen to her son, so she's trying to protect him and she's trying to get him to blend in with normality. While she's doing this, she's also hunting for the cure for him so that he's able to actually just live off books. But she's gonna have to kind of like go to extreme lengths to try and get this medicine. The whole backstory of these characters is absolutely wild, and how these book eaters exist in like their family structures is also really interesting, and I just really enjoyed this. It was like quite dark, but the tone I would say wasn't kind of like up and down excitement and everything. It was kind of just like, yeah, if book eaters were real, I could see this totally being a really real thing. The characters I felt were really fleshed out. There was also a part in this that I remember, and this is what stuck out with me the most, is that she kind of like brain rots for a day and just sits in front of like classic Tomb Raider and plays that. And that's honestly, like, I think this is how I contributed to my autism assessment, because I spent like 20 minutes talking about Tomb Raider 3, and I'm in the process of trying to rank all of the Tomb Raider games. There's a whole spreadsheet and everything. So yeah, if you like the Evernight subscription, I did just want to name drop this book as a recommendation to you. If you're an Illumicrate subscriber, you probably have this on your shelves. Give this a read. Let me know what you think of it. I really love this. I hope everyone is having a lovely time with their family this autumn. I hope everyone's had a very happy Halloween and eaten lots of sweets, and I hope to see you in my next video. And please come back for the November reading vlog, because I swear it'll be better than this one. Oh, I need to go outdoors more. Bye guys.